A very good evening to all of you, and today our topic of discussion is figuring out cutoff. Now this is something which is very interesting. Sometimes it so happens that you have appeared for a paper of 3 hours, but you would spend more than 30 hours figuring out whether you are meeting the cutoff or not. And the most interesting part is you won't rely on one source. What you would do is you would move across sources. You would switch from Institute A to Institute B to Institute C and see the cutouts for the respective institutes which they have declared. And none of them is sure what the actual cutout would be. There are various ways to understand this. The first thing that I usually tell students is whenever you are talking about cutoff, let's say you come to me and ask me what is the cutoff for this examination, ma'am. Now, what best I can tell is the information which I have from my limited number of students. And when there is an examination, there is lakhs of students. So, my sample size practically is very small. Now, with that sample size, if I am giving my cutoffs, how accurate those are, I am also not sure. But what most of the institutions do is, in order to grab the attention of the students, they keep on declaring the cutoffs, irrespective of the fact that whether it would be correct or not. Sometimes it gets correct, sometimes it not. So, first thing that you should keep in mind is don't switch from one place to another place finding the right cutoffs. Once you are done with the examination, it's done. Nothing can be reversed. You cannot go back and change your examination copies. You cannot either change the result that would come or some others marks. So none of those things can be altered. So the best way to think and to keep in mind here is that these cutoffs, whatever are declared, are just for an estimate, but you should not go for any of the cutoffs. Now, I would tell you a very interesting thing. What is when you are looking for cutoff? When you are looking for cutoff, somewhere in the back of your mind is a psychological imprint, and that psychological imprint is nothing but searching for possibilities. Now, how? I'll explain. What happens is you look for the cutoff by Institute A and you say that 68% is the cutoff marks. You are securing, for example, somewhere around 67.5. Now, what you would do is you would search for another institute till the time you do not find an institute that would give a cutoff of 67. Once you get a cutoff of 67, you are so relaxed. You feel that, okay, now this is the correct cutoff and I'll definitely qualify. So that's the thought one that goes into your mind. But as soon as this thought goes, you would have another thought, oh no, that institute gave a cutoff of 68. I need to recheck this. So what you would do is, for a 3-hour paper that you have attempted, you would spend more than 30 hours looking for cutoffs from various institutes. Now that you have cutoff from, let's say, 5 or 10 institutes, you are all puzzled. You are all jumbled. You don't know what is the right way out. So what you would do is, you would send individual queries to instructors whom you can contact. So for example, you would mention in the comment section in the Examrace, or you would drop a personal email to me or to some other instructor asking for what would be the cutoff for this exam. I have heard this can be the cutoff and my marks are this. Now tell me, am I the right person to tell you whether you would get through the examination or not? If you have already appeared for the examination, now you cannot prepare further with what the things have gone wrong. The only best thing that you can do here is look for the official key. And with the official key, do not think what the cutoffs would be, but try to tally the correct answers. Now why I say so is, many of the exams nowadays entertain challenge. They look for challenge. So if you feel any of the answers in the answer key, official answer key which is being declared by NTA or any other organization has discrepancies and you are sure that the right answer is something else, definitely go ahead, contact your instructors, contact the persons who can help you get the hold of the right sources and challenge. Only if you challenge, there is a change in the answer key. If there is no challenge, there is no change in the answer key. If there is a change in the answer key, there is a possibility that your score can improve. Now again, when the students are challenging, they face a very big problem. They face a problem, I could say it's a financial problem rather, because the cost for the challenge is very high, and sometimes the students are not able to bear more than one or two questions to challenge. In case there can be 5 to 10 questions they need to challenge. So what you can do in that circumstance, a good suggestion is try to get hold of certain friends or certain social media group where you can challenge one of the questions, your friend can challenge another question, and that way you can create a community where your financial burden can be spread out. So that is the most important thing. Don't go for the cutoffs, but yes, definitely check out the correct answers. Now, checking out the correct answers would help you in another way as well. You might wonder why, but the simple logic is, it's not just one exam that you are appearing for. It's good that you have to appear only for one exams and no further exams. That's the best thing. But in case still waiting for the results and you are to appear for another exams, in that case you would have a confidence on the topic through which you have searched the length and breadth to find out the correct answer. So definitely it would give you a much better head in order to prepare for your coming exams. Okay, so that is one of the most important things. Now, why I usually say don't waste time figuring out the cutoffs. The real reason is, as I mentioned before, the things cannot be reversed. What you have attempted, what you have marked in the answer key cannot be changed. Even for subjective papers, the students are looking for cutoffs. Now, subjective paper is so subjective in nature. Even the examiner who is checking the paper has a subjective mindset, and there can be huge fluctuations in the gradation of the marks once they are being conducted or once the examiner is checking the copies. So, nothing can be reversed. So, simply forget about cutoffs. Think that it was just a temple, you visited, you prayed, and you returned back. So that's how you should take the examination. It was just a holy place to worship. You moved there, you worshipped, and you returned back. The next important thing is stick to the fight. That means, as I mentioned, there are more exams coming one after the other. So if you are looking to the cutoffs, you are somewhere in the mind either getting confident that I would get selected. If that is the case, you won't prepare for the further examination, and in case the cutoffs are not real with what you have matched with, you would suffer a loss because you stopped preparing for a given period of time, confident that you would qualify, and ultimately the results did not turn into your favor, and for the next exam also you are not that prepared. The next reason why I say is stick to the fight is, sometimes you get totally depressed saying that I was not able to meet somewhere close to the cutoff and I probably won't be able to do it. Probably the paper was difficult, the cutoffs were fake, there could be any number of reasons, or all the students are sailing in the same boat. So each of them found the paper very difficult. So stick to the fight again. Don't go by the cutoffs. If you go by the cutoffs, there are two possibilities. Either you would be overconfident or you would be underconfident, and both of them are not good for your future preparations. The next important thing I would say here is, as I mentioned, there is sequence of examination. It's not just one examination. Let's assume you are giving entrance examination. You are giving one today, probably next week is another, 1 month later is another examination. If you are entangled in this web of finding out the cutoffs, you won't prepare, you won't work on the content. You would simply waste time figuring out what can be the future, and that is something which is not in your hands. So just for the sake that you have sequence of examination running one after the other, it's best to keep preparing and not to go back and look onto the cutoff. The only thing you can look on is finding out the correct answers, as I mentioned, if there are discrepancies you find. There are some of the questions here Vinay has asked, I have recently given a competitive exam and I am sure 70% of my paper is correct, but when analyze, there are lots of mistakes. Only 55% questions are correct. How can I improve next? Now, the good thing is that you have analyzed it and you already know the areas where you did wrong, where you went wrong. So, identify those weak spots and try to focus more on those concepts where you lost marks. So within the paper you can identify the segments. Okay, history was the section where I went weak, or polity was the section where I went weak, or so on and so forth. And then you have to work more on those topics, those contents, the type of questions where you did mistakes. It could be, for example, a lot of students face problem with assertion reason questions. It could be match list questions. Students get confused when there is match list. So all these needs to be taken into account. Khushbu has a question. Please give me suggestion from where I can read research methodology and data processing in psychology for MA entrance. Now, we have covered that extensively in our postal material, so if you want you can cover that. If you want the series of book list, we do have that on the website for psychology. Refer that as well. SM has a question. In the current situation, every exam is coming back to back. How to handle the preparation and the anxiety? That's something what I was trying to say, SM, here, that specifically when you have exams back to back, the most important thing is don't go back and look to what you have done in the previous examination. That can only create distress, that can only create anxiety, frustration, and if your paper went good, it would create overconfidence, which is again not good for your next exams. So just don't go back and think about what has already been done. There is another question from Priyadarshini about tips for timetable. Now, timetable, the best way is figure out how long is the stretch that you have. Is it 1 month, 2 month, 3 month, and then take your syllabus, divide your time within that time frame, and based on your own level of grasping the various subjects, identify which sections you would take more time, which sections you would take less time. So I would say creating a timetable for yourself is an art. Don't go by the timetables created by others for you. We have also done and taken classes on creating time on best timetable for UPSC and so on and so forth, but ideally what I recommend a student is your timetable should be your unique timetable, because everyone have their strong areas and weak areas, and the time that you need to devote to your weak areas is much higher as compared to your strong areas. So identify the lacks, identify the problem areas, and then based on that create your own unique timetable. Methili has a question about class 9th NCRT. Mathli class 9 NCRT is already done for social studies. For science, a lot of sections are already covered. The remaining would be coming soon. SM has a question when the NET examination would be conducted. So there is no official declaration as of now. However, ICAR NET, that's the Indian Council for Agricultural Research NET notification, the dates have been released for the month of September. So probably neck to neck you would have the other NET that would be scheduled if everything remains status quo. The next question is class 7th NCRT chapter 6. Ashwini, we have already covered all the chapters of social studies for class 7. Class 7th, lot of chapters for science are also covered. I believe only 1 or 2 chapters are left which would be covered in the coming months. So just stay tuned for that. So those were some of the important things that we have discussed, and the whole crux here is that you need to focus mainly on your preparation. Don't get distracted, don't get diverted by all these kinds of cutoffs that run across in the social media, in your friend circle groups, or through your colleagues. Make sure that you are highly focused for your goal, and only then you can achieve your goal. There is another question from Vinay, how to improve on mathematics for competitive exam. So Vinay, mathematics comes only with practice. Mathematics, quantitative ability, all comes through practice. The more you practice, the better command you get, and once you are able to solve simpler questions, try to increase the difficulty level. and get into more difficult questions. Vivek has a question about current affairs related to UPSC. So Vivek, we have started a new playlist, topics and news. You can check out that playlist on the Examrace English channel. Also on, if you are conversant with Hindi, on Examrace Hindi also we have a series of current affairs running daily. It's not a current affairs based on the daily analysis of the news, but one of the most important topics of the daily news is covered. So you can just simply subscribe and have a look onto it. There is another question from Bhumi. I study well according to me, but can't score more than 91%. Now Bhumi, first of all, 91% is a decent percent, very good percent. So don't get distressed about it that your percentage are not good. Secondly, whatever strategy you are already using, try to just refine that strategy, do a little change in the kind of study pattern, in the kind of observation you do for the examination paper, and that's one of the good ways to figure out where exactly you are losing marks. The next question is, Vinay has a question about 6th to 10th maths NCERT, is it sufficient? Vinay, you are asking for which exam? So it depends based on exam to exam. If you are talking about UPSC prelims, yes. If you are talking about NTA NET, yes. 6th to 10th maths NCERT is more than sufficient to cover. So those were some of the topics that we have covered, some of the questions that we have covered for discussion today. The remaining questions we would take in our next live session, which would be held on Saturday again at 6 p.m. In the meanwhile, any questions, any doubts, you are more than welcome to ask those either in the comment section or email us to admin@examrace.com. Even if you have requests for specific topics, specific videos, feel free to drop us a simple email and requesting the topic that should be covered. If that is already covered, you would be provided the link for the same. Wish you a very good luck for preparation, and the next few months definitely are witnessing numerous examinations back to back. So prepare well, stay healthy, wish you a very good luck.